And sometimes we have to be very specific in our prompts to make sure it provides the exact responses that we need for a particular scenario, assuming that we want a response based off of historic prompts and requests.
Mm-hmm. What else did we cover?
I enjoyed actually learning about the difference between like human intelligence and traditional computing and AI, especially thinking about the way we think with how our brain fires a little bit different, but knowing that we all see patterns. So I thought that was interesting.
Good. What else?
Well, I and especially enjoyed yesterday's because prior to getting in the class, I really knew nothing about AI other than what you heard on in the media about the evils of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know, and even when I was I did 4 sessions in September, and but then I was, just trying to learn. Yesterday, it clarified a lot of what I heard then, and it was a lot easier. And I especially enjoyed that when I got the notes from what's her name,
Blomley.
Baloney. When I got those things, a lot more sense. So it's a lot clearer to me to learning about it. Um, One of the things that I did have a puzzle with was trying to. I didn't complete the homework assignment. I will do it after today's session. In knowing how to really get in there. And I was following somebody's notes, comment about, just cut and paste it kind of a thing, and I wasn't successful with that. It was
Okay.
just I'm going to have to just type it in there, and go in and to do. But just the clarification of AI and the different aspects of it and how we're using it took away again some of the discomforts about it and opened up more of the um, exploration and what I will be able to do with it
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way.
Yep.
For me, there was one sentence or line that really stuck out to me the most, and it was after you asked, what is the best prompt for AI? And AI is the best prompt for itself. That line stuck with me harder than anything. Even though there was a lot of good information, a lot of knowledge, but just that line alone was probably, I think, the basis of I gathered.
So, why do you think? Is it Josh or Joshua?
Josh. Josh
Okay,
was my
Josh.
full name, but Josh was short.
Okay. So, is it okay if I refer to you as Josh?
Completely fine.
Okay. So, Josh, why do you think that? What was so powerful about that? I mean, yeah. What was so powerful about that? Could you go a little bit further?
Yeah. So for me, if you think about how you process information and how you think about like thinking about a solution, you're always asking yourself the next question and the next question, next question. But to me, what that line is saying is you ask AI to become the better version of itself by asking AI to become the best version of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's saying, hey, we've started here in, like example, we ask, are you famous? Or, we need you to perform as this famous person. would this, and then after you generate that question, would this famous person actually say that? And but it takes a clarity or a level of reading through and understanding and saying, maybe, maybe this could be a little bit better.
Mhm.
And then also just getting to the best outcome. I think that when we're putting out information out there, and we talked about this yesterday, how the internet and information is out there, and we have this overall idea of how to use it, but do we really know how to gather it? Do we really know how to put it out there where it can be of value? Because that's the thing about using this program and then using this system is like, are we going to produce quantifiable work that is valuable? So that's why
Mhm.
that line stuck out to me so much. Thanks for asking me to dive deeper in that.
Yeah, I want to expand on what you said, right? So not it not only helps you're not only helping it be its better self, but it's also going to help you from the standpoint of maybe you don't know anything about that topic, right? Maybe you don't. Maybe if we're talking about SEO, search engine optimization, or we're talking about um, product management, or you're talking about marketing. If you own a restaurant and you're a chef, you probably don't know much about marketing, right? How do I market this thing, right? You're going to say, well, I'll make the best food possible, and that works, right? But if you build, it's kind of like that analogy: if the tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it fall, does it make a sound, right? Does it? If you make the best product and nobody finds it and nobody uses it, nobody knows about it, you're done, right? And so it really, I found it helps me learn as I go forward, right? Not only just creating new outputs, but thinking about using it as a thought partner to say, I don't really know how to create a marketing plan. Where would I start? I can't tell you the number of times I've typed that in. I don't know where to start. Can you help me? And it starts off at a rudimentary level. And then you just keep asking it questions, right? I mean, it's really about, for those of you that manage people, it's really about how do you ask questions when you're interacting with it. You know, when if you go in, when you go into InnoPower.ai and look around, there is a prompt generator in there. So I want a marketing plan, right? And there's all these things when I say I want to create a prompt, there's all these things that I want to do, that I want it to do. I want it to ask me one question at a time. I want it to be clear and concise, all this other stuff. I've created a prompt creator that I can then go in and just say, I need a prompt to do whatever it is. And it spits it out. And it spits out all the things that I usually want, or that I've told it I want in a prompt and the way I want it to work. And then I'll ask it to go review it. What do you think about this prompt? Right? And it'll come back and it'll tell me and it'll fix itself. It's really, I think it really kind of changes the way people start thinking about how they learn. I was part of, when I started this journey with InnoPower, I was actually part of Indiana Wesleyan University, and traditional teaching methods are still really prevalent, right? And yet, do we really need that anymore? Is there a better way to do it? Can using AI help us? Some people need the discipline, some don't. Some can do it on their own. So I really liked the fact that you brought that out and you got that, because if you understand how to ask questions of Chat GPT or any other AI platform, you can figure out, you can get something, right? You can get something and it can be high quality, even though you may not, going into it, you may not know anything about it. So I think that's why I made that statement, and I'm glad you noticed that. I'm off my soapbox now. So Is anybody else, is there anything else you want to add, Josh, or does anybody else have anything they want to add?
Something I picked up yesterday that I really appreciated along those same lines is that when you were in the InnoPower site and I think you went down to the different types of chats.
Mm-hmm.
And, I said, well, how do you know which one is the best? And and the fact that they all may be the same, but they all have some differences. And
Mm-hmm.
as we're learning and experimenting, just testing them out, we start to learning which ones that we would want to go to for certain types of things. And so that I first initially thought it was like, oh no, that's going to be confusing. But I think it's good because you start to learning which one you like and that you can get what you're needing from it.
Exactly. Right. And let me just say the value of the InnoPower.ai AI studio that we developed, the power of that is that you can go into all those different tools and use them at any point in time, right? And you're not going to have 5 subscriptions. I mean, these AI tools can get really expensive really quick. And so by using a tool like InnoPower.ai, you can get access to the chats. And in addition, you can get access to things that we've already created, right? Like the technology crystal ball. That I wrote that is a futurist, essentially a technology futurist, where you can ask it questions, and based on whatever is going on currently, it will come back and it'll tell you what you think. What do you think the world is going to be like in 10 years? And it will tell you. It'll tell you what it thinks based on what it knows and what it's learned, right? And as we evolve, as our training models evolve, as we get more experience with AI, then the technology crystal ball is only going to get smarter because it's operating off of a model that's constantly changing, right? And constantly getting updated. So it's only going to get better. So it's, and when you think about things, when I think about things, I wrote that originally because I think a lot about where things are going to be. And I wondered if anybody else would. So you as a business owner, let's assume we're all in some form or other. We either are an entrepreneur and we own our own business, or we're a part of a business, or we're a person inside a corporation. We work for somebody, and we're treating ourselves as our own little company inside a company, right? We all want to know where things are going, and we all want to take a stab at where things are going. And I do too. That's why I wrote that, right? So you can use that for that kind of approach, to understand just where things are going, where things are at. Tamika, you've got your hand up.
Okay, so last night in doing the homework, from a technical aspect, I had some wins, some gains, some moments where I felt proud of myself, some moments when I felt overwhelmed. So I tried to use the InnoPower platform, and I don't think I was using it well. So I want to get some clarifications in how to navigate that. So I had been using ChatGPT historically, and I pay $20 a month for, I guess, it's multiple levels of having those platforms, but the particular version I have, I pay about $20 a month for. It gave me really good responses of what I needed, but at a certain point in the exercise, and I don't know if it's because it was too much data, because I did take the workbook and I downloaded it, then I uploaded it into the app. And I felt like I was going really well with that, right? But at a certain point, it says you have reached your max limit on responses. And when I was doing the Power version, it kept giving me a thing that it not respond as if. So I was interviewing Fannie Lou Hamer, and it told me that they could not respond to me as if they were Fannie Lou Hamer. And so that's not what I was expecting. And I was very clear. I said, give me first person responses, but it would not respond to me in a first person response. And so when I gave that prompt to ChatGPT, it did respond as if I'm viewing Fannie Lou Hamer, and I really enjoyed. So I think I need some assistance navigating the Empower platform to get exactly what I was needing.
Chris, do
I
you
don't know
mind
if I
me
was
popping in,
clear.
Chris?
No, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So I'm actually coming through with this group, and this is a great group. I pray that we all are infused together throughout the rest of this year. Um, and hopefully Chris don't beat me up too bad. But one thing I noticed is that Chris is in a box. And yesterday I was looking at how he facilitates the class, his demeanor, and how he's responding. He's not reacting. And I said, wow, that's a box. And then what he showed us, it never came out of that box. So when he took us all into the end of power window, that was a box. And what was revealed to me is he's given us the answers to this 6 hour session, right? So we don't have a lot of time to be going through a lot of apps. And he's telling us, even this morning, hey, it can cost us if we go outside that box. So he's given us the answer within this 6 hour window. And I said, huh. So to make a long story short, all of our answers is in Inner Power's box. As long as we stay within that box, look at how he's teaching us and learn from him and him only, and don't go outside that box, our Inner Power's website all the way through until you turn in your final assignment. And I'm going to get off my soapbox. That's all.
So I'm looking, well, thanks for that. While I was looking while you were talking, you got a lot of stuff out of here, right? Tamika?
So I did get responses, but if you notice when it responded back to me, it would say, I cannot respond to you as if I am Fannie Lou Hamer. And I thought the objective was for us to interview and the response be as if we were interviewing that person. And like I said,
Yeah.
when I went in the other app, it did respond in first person. So I was trying to duplicate. I couldn't figure out the technology piece to get it to respond in a first person when working in the Inner Power app.
Okay. So what I'll do is I will go and look at your chat and take a look at it offline and figure out see what maybe we could have done differently. It could be
Okay.
that I could have given you better instructions. It could be that you put it in differently than I suggested. So we'll take a look at that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
When you got the Chat GPT response, right, about you had too many requests, does anybody really know does anybody have any suggestions on why that happened? We talked about it a little bit yesterday.
One of the things you described yesterday was how much like each word took up. So sometimes it could be like what we're asking it to recall is I remember you used the phrase token versus what the capacity was. And so if we put too much information in, the processing time slows down or it can't get to it and it knows it. So it just stops. No.
Tamika, what do you think about that answer?
Yeah, but so I've seen that happen before. So basically it said that beginning at 1 a.m. I could continue the exercise, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So I don't remember what time it was when I was doing it, but so I've worked in Chat GPT before and had those experiences where it'll give you a shutdown window because you have given it so many inquiries and prompts in one subject matter.
Hmm. Yeah. So,
So I know that to
it-
be true. But
sorry.
I just was trying to get it out of, I know you said Inner Power would give it all to you. I just could not get Inner Power to give me the first person narrative responses. So that's why I use the other app
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah. I'll take a look at that. And, to sorry, gotta get my shoes on. Carletta, great answer, right? Great answer. So it was measuring it measures tokens, it measures, how many tokens you have, your requests, it's counting all that. And when you buy a Chat GPT subscription, you're limited to, they're rate limiting you, right? Just like some phone plans do, right? They rate limit you in terms of how much data you can use. And they used to rate limit how many minutes you could use, right, on calls and things like that. That's what they're doing. And the reason they're doing that is they're trying to manage their budget. And the more things they have going at once, that means the more servers they've got, the bigger the data pipes have to be going out, the more electricity they consume, right? It just drives up their costs. Whereas if they spread you out over a 24-hour period, it's less, right? So that's kind of what's going on there, Tamika, is you're doing so much. And sometimes it might just be, they may tell you that it's the number of requests, but it might actually be you've uploaded a file. In this case, if you uploaded the workbook, it might very well be that the workbook took up a big chunk of that space, right? And made it so that they're going to limit you because they want to restrict it. Maybe it could be too when you did it, right? So when's the busiest times on the internet? Does anybody know?
Between 7 p.m. and midnight, I think.
Yeah. And so if that is when it's busy, and that represents when most people are on there, right? They're at home, they're at home, they're able to do stuff, the kids are streaming, all that stuff, right? So they can also limit you to peak times as well. So you just have to be aware of that and be flexible in what you're trying to do.
Is that an Empower issue, or is that just in general being in chat?
So
That's in
InnoPower,
general. That's
sorry,
in
say
general.
that again.
That's a bad. This is Martin. That's in general. Anytime you're using the internet, you have the same traffic. The controlling factor in the internet is always the smallest pipe. So they have a really huge pipe on their end. You have a small one on your end. So you're what's really controlling it, what goes out there. So the internet is always being managed. People think they can do whatever they want, but really they can't. But most of the time you don't bump up against the limits of the services that you're using. When you're using large language models, because they consume so much data, you really are bumping up against it all the time. So that's something that you kind of have to get used to. Those of us who go back to the BBS days with the internet, we remember when we used to bump up against the limits all the time. We've gotten used to a really broad landscape, and large language models are changing that. They're actually taking us back to the beginning to restructure how we manage things on the internet. Okay? That makes sense?
Martin, you're dating yourself.
I date myself. Sometimes we have a good conversation.
Chris, good afternoon, everyone. Just a really interesting conversation, really good. Just listening to the question, and Chris, correct me if I'm way wrong on this, but when you go to do that, and part of what this class will teach you is the InnoPower.ai platform is a custom built AI studio that has been trained with specific materials, right? So when you ask for the Fannie Lou and you're doing that, it may not have that information broadly because Chris did not specifically train it for that. If you on the same platform, there's a Black GPT that was created that was trained with specific materials around Black history because some of those materials were not available publicly. So the team back then that took the class actually tried to train it with some materials to give it more information about Black history. So I may be wrong on this, but what I'm thinking is when you use InnoPower.ai for that specific, because those materials have not been trained on it specifically, it may not have all of that information broadly. But that's an example of AI today and how you can train specific models with information that now you can go back into and draw out of. And it's not necessarily going to pull from a billion books in the internet like the large language models do. So each of those tools inside the InnoPower.ai, other than the large language models, were trained specifically for a specific task to help engage students or people that are taking the class or support them with different materials. So again, like I said, I may be wrong. I'm also like an AI, like learning everything too. But when I listen to everything that was just said about what you were able to get from the LLM compared to what you were able to get from the studio and the difference. So
Yeah,
Chris, you
you're
got
right.
to correct me if I'm totally wrong.
No, you're not wrong, Emil. Not wrong at all. The InnoPower.ai studio, we have models that we've trained, and then we also give access to Chat GPT. And when we do that, it's a different, we're going through it in a different way than what you do when you're sitting in your browser at home. And so you can get different answers. And that's what I need to explore is because we're going in a different way, we may be getting different results. But you're absolutely right. The tools that we've got in there, specifically the Black GPT, we've trained those with specific materials to get them to do what we want them to do. You're absolutely right. And I didn't know you were here. I don't think you were here yesterday, Emil. Would you like to say a few words to the class? I'll put him on the spot.
Yeah, I came in for a second yesterday, so I kind of stayed in and listened. You did put me on the spot, but it's great to listen to the conversation. Just sitting back and listening on day 2 of just the class, right? To see that we're actually having that deep of a conversation about how AI could be productive. This class, we wanted to get this done because we started this in April last year, where we started with 50 master trainers to train them, and then the goal was for them to go out and train 20 people each so we can democratize access to AI in communities in Indianapolis. After doing that, we saw those trainers go out and train. We trained over 600 people. They all went out and trained 20 each. So our goal in 2026 is to scale that, right? Is to get more people with the knowledge that Chris is teaching that will go out and train other people. We're doing this class at no cost because the way we're getting paid back is you're going out and training other people. Now, normally we'll ask you before you even move on the class to let us know that you have 20 people to train. But that's an assumption that everyone in this class is prepared to go be a master trainer. Some of you might just want to take the 12 hours just to educate yourselves on AI literacy and prompt engineering and don't want to be a master trainer to continue down this path. I would highly encourage you that, if you are able to get this training and have it, the people that have become master trainers, what we have seen in the last 6 months has been unbelievable with what they're doing today. We have people that didn't know anything about AI in April of 2025. And today, in December 2025, they're traveling around the country speaking about AI, being invited because they are certified master trainers. So a big part of the class is what you guys are doing now with Chris. We totally love the way Chris teaches this class. And sometimes when I listen to it, I'm like, okay, are they going to get anything? And then at the end of the class, people have all this knowledge, right? So there's a system he uses, and he does a great job doing it. But at the end of the day, people are empowered and they're able to go out and teach what they've learned and also apply it in their day-to-day lives. So that's what we hope is you guys become part of this AI community that spreads across continents. We've had people we've trained in Liberia and Nigeria. We're going to train more people all over West Africa. But we're trying to build this pool of master trainers that have the heart, the passion, and desire to empower other people that don't have access to what you have access to. That's our mission. That's what we're all about. And we can't force you to do it. We hope you will just pay it forward the way we're paying it forward to you. And you'll be willing to go train others. And we got to hold you back from doing it. So that's really everything this is all about, is to get as many people as possible empowered with the tools and skills. And hopefully that they go out and do more than 20 people. That they going out and they're leading to getting people that normally when a new technology comes out are so late to adopt the technology. So then they end up playing catch up, or they're just consumers of the technology. So we want to be deliberate about trying to make sure that doesn't happen. If opportunity to use 16 to 24-year-olds who are not in school, not working, are able to get the skills and they can do graphic design and videos and become social media influencers, so be it. That's one skill they have to go try and make money. If returning citizens coming out of prison that can't go get a job, that need skill, they want to start a business, they have an idea. Now they're able to use AI to help speed that process up. If adults in our community who are trying to figure out their medication or how they live a healthy life, and they're able to use AI to build out a plan. All of these things are things that didn't exist 3 years ago. So how do we get as many people as possible who normally would have to this kind of knowledge to have it not a year from now, but tomorrow? So that's what we hope that you get inspired to go do. But what we are going to do as you go through this, if you do decide to be master trainers, then we're going to ask that you share with us that you have 20 people that you're going to go train. And then we'll move forward. But if you don't want to be a master trainer and you just want to take 12 hours of prompt engineering and literacy, that's fine too. We'll invite you back to the next 12 hours of automation and then the next 12 hours of agents. But if you do want to take on the responsibility of being a master trainer, not only is it good for you and your earnings individually, it's the power that you're going to be able to give to other people. So that's the mission of everything we're doing. Sorry, my voice is chopped. It's cold as heck out here. Today is a little warmer, but excited to see a lot of you that I know on here. And I'm looking forward to talking to you this time next week to see how much you picked up.
So while I put him on the spot, does anybody have any questions for Emil? Mm-hmm. You can put him on the spot too. He likes that.
I just want
So
to say
I have a
thanks
question.
for real quick. I just wanted to say
we can barely hear you, Josh.
In this program. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah, that's better.
I just wanted to say thanks for getting this program going and kicking. I know when I have seen you in the past, you've mentioned it. So thanks. That's all.
Emil, I just wanted to say thanks as well for the program. When you first started talking about it, and I work at JP Morgan, and so when Emil first started talking about it, I didn't get the big picture of it, and so being able to take the class has been amazing. Just to even learn the first day what we learned. So I wanted to thank you for putting it together with Chris, and something really that we can just all add on to our resume, knowing how we can use it differently, but it'll still be just as effective. So thank you.
Thank you, Carletta. Thank you, Joshua. Joshua, it's great seeing you. I know it was a while back we talked, so it's great to see you here. Carletta, really excited to see how you are going to looking at AI from the financial standpoint and a lot of the financial literacy training that you do in small business work. So really excited to see in a couple of weeks, a month, where you are going to be and how you're using this to do the work that you already do. So I'm looking forward to see how that looks.
All right. Thanks, Emil. Let's with that, let's go ahead and get started on
Quick, Chris, I'm sorry. I just saw somebody else. So there's so many different people. Gina Quatra. So Gina works with a recorder, but she also does, and I said her name all wrong, but she also does a lot of small business meetups and provides space and a way for real micro businesses to come together to sell their products. And she works with hundreds and hundreds of them. So also really excited to see how she's going to take all of this to organize what she's doing with all of those micro businesses to be able to help promote their businesses and then give them space. So I just wanted to say that because I'm surprised that she has time to join, but it's great to see that she's in the class.
Thanks, Emil. Thank you. And I am going to use that that route for my capstone. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and let's start talking. Let's go ahead and start talking through what we're going to do today. First of all, it appears if you look at the time right now, you might say, well, we've only got an hour and 15 minutes left. What are we going to get done? Again, the idea here is you're going to take these concepts that we come up with and that we discuss, and you're going to take those concepts and move them forward, right? And you're going to move them forward outside of here in your everyday life, your personal life, your professional life, your giving back life, right? Your charitable life, the things you do for fun. So we're going to start today talking about language models and GPTs. And I'm going to fly through this stuff quickly because we've talked about it over the last day or so. We've talked about it several times and referenced it, but I want to go through it just one more time because I think it's important for you to understand, right, on what it is. And so we've talked about this, right? What are large language models, right? They are the first part, language. When I first heard language, I was thinking computer languages, right? Like COBOL or Fortran or Python or some technical coding language, right? But what we're really talking about is the language models take the data that we've got, whatever data it's got, and it breaks it down in a way where it can understand it and figure out ways that it can get to the information to group it together when you want it, right? And so it's important that we understand that. How do we communicate with large language models? We can do it a number of different ways, right? The gateway or the way to get into it is through NLP, natural language processing. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, right? We talked about Siri. We talked about Alexa. We talked about in this meeting, right? I've got an AI companion that's going to go through, and it's going to go through and summarize everything that it hears. It's taking those sound waves that it picks up. They're being converted into electricity, right? Electric signals that are then used to be turned into actual text, right? And then it's processed, and then it comes back out the same way, right? And that's why you can with Siri or Alexa or any of those other tools, that's why it talks back to you, right? Is they're taking those electronic signals, they're converting them into they're converting it into text, and then that text is then converted into sound waves that you can hear. And it follows the linguistic structures that we as humans use. So instead of communicating through APIs or a bunch of technical mumbo jumbo, what we're doing is we're communicating in a way that we are comfortable with. And this is really the first time that on a mass scale, we're able to do that. Instead of us having to go out and hire some programmer to do this, and then you sit down and you're constrained by first name, last name, address. You're constrained by the fields, and you have to tell it what it is specifically. Now we don't have to do that because it's looking at how we communicate and breaking it down into a structure that it can then search for information and return that information in a way that we understand. There are some good ways, some easy ways that you can use GPT models, and we see them all the time, right? Virtual assistants, again, Siri, Alexa. You can see it a lot of websites have chatbots now where you're asking it questions and it's responding back to you with sentences. It understands context. It understands what you're saying. It understands the context that you ask the question. If I say to you, hey, do you have a boot? You might say yes, right? You might say yes, because you got a pair of boots at home. If I say that to my granddaughter who lives in the UK, she's going to say, yeah, I've got it because it's on a car, right? A boot is a trunk in the UK, right? So context matters. So large language models are trained in such a way that they can look at the context surrounding the words to be able to understand try to understand what we're saying. So somebody in the US ask about a boot or boots, they're going to be thinking about boots on your feet. In the UK, it's more likely going to be about the trunk of a car, right? So that context really matters. And that's one of the things that is, I think, difficult for English is that words have multiple meanings, right? They represent multiple things. A Kleenex, what's a Kleenex? It's a tissue that you get that you use to blow your nose, right? How powerful is that? Now, when my wife says to me, hey, stop and get some Kleenex on the way home from the store, do I necessarily am buying a box that says Kleenex on it? No, it's a general term, right? But yet if I say, we need to get some top quality tissues, stop and get Kleenex, right? Then it's a different issue. And that context always matters. Large language models have been trained that they have to not only look at the words that we say, but the context around them. And that's important as you think about your interactions with prompts, right? As your interactions with large language models. Context matters, right? And so you're going to have to make sure that you're giving it enough context that it understands what you're trying to say. So can anybody tell me, we talked about it yesterday, can anybody tell me how we give it context?
You're looking for, you have your keywords that you're searching against. So I would take a list of keywords, topic that I'm looking for, and put those in and see what it gives me back at basic question. There's several different approaches that you have to accessing the data to get the information out that you're looking for. But keywords is one way. That may be the simplest way. Like you said, Kleenex. Kleenex is going to get is the colloquialism for all facial tissue. But when you say premium Kleenex, premium facial tissues, now you're going to say, well, Kleenex or Puffs or the big name brands, right. And it knows all of those different things. You're not looking for the single ply or you're looking for a multiple ply. You could say facial tissue with lotion, and that's gonna get you into a category. So there's different keywords you can put together, combinations of words. What you're doing is you're interrogating the data. So to formulate your question based on keywords is really what it's waiting for you to do.
To piggyback on Martin's point, I think that you can also ask to formulate the words that you need for the topic that you're trying to build. So let's go use the Kleenex example. Well, what keywords or what context would actually help me get to this outcome? And then it will populate, okay, whether it's, this type of tissue, this type of brand, this type of product or whatever that's associated with it. So it's going back and, maybe starting at ground zero where you ask it, hey, I don't know where to exactly start with with the content, but or the context, but help me populate and formulate what the context should be around this certain topic.
Yep. Yeah. So building on what you both have said, right? We can tell it a number of different ways on what it is we want, what the context is, right? We can, using what Martin said and what Josh expanded on, we can use keywords. We can also tell it the context by saying, I am an entrepreneur in a one-person company that manufactures widgets, right? What did I just do? I gave it a lot of context, right? And yeah, there are keywords in there, but I've structured those keywords. Even within the keywords, I've given it context around it, right? I've taken the keywords and put it together in a way. Now, what's the large language model going to do? It's going to look for those keywords, those patterns, and it's going to return, and it's going to use that as a foundation to come back. But from my standpoint, I'm telling it in English. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a solo. I'm the only person in my business and I manufacture widgets, or I'm a marketer, or I want you, the AI, to be a marketer, right? A marketing expert. So you give it that context, you give it that understanding, you give it that framework so that it doesn't have to figure out whether you're talking about Kleenex as any facial tissue or the premium. You're telling it exactly what is surrounding your request. You can have dialogue, right? It's a better dialogue because it's in a human format. It's how we communicate, right? We're talking right now and, we have these conversations. I don't have to change my tone when I'm typing in a command or talking via my voice to AI. I don't have to do any of that. I can just start talking, right? It's going to respond back in a language that I can understand. And if I don't understand what it's actually saying, I can say, can you explain that further? Can you elaborate? I don't understand what you mean by quantum physics, or I don't understand what you mean by this phrase, or how does this help my business, right? I'm asking it in a conversation, just like I would if Josh and I were sitting down at a coffee shop and I'm seeking his help on how to improve my business, right? So it's very, the idea of GPTs has really started to change how people think and how we approach AI. It makes it more approachable. You don't have to be a tech guru to do this. I've had an 80-year-old great grandmother create a cookbook for her grandkids and her great grandkids with her recipes and some other recipes, and she did it all with AI, right? I've had kids that are 10 years old use AI to generate images, to create song lyrics, to take those lyrics and then put them with an AI song generator and create music. They create stories. You don't, so it allows you to be able to communicate in the way that you are comfortable with. When we learn AI, when we go in and, as Emil talked about, when we train AI, how do we approach that? So the way we approach it is you start out by taking the data that you want to use to train it and you clean it, right? Data is dirty. I mean, if you work at all in the IT business or you think about it, right? Everybody's got a different format. They got their own way of doing things. They got their own style. They got their own codes. So when we're training the data, we go through and we do it and we try to get it to be where it's standardized, right? So that we can show it what's good and what's not, right? And then we can also go in and say, all right, what kind of things do we not want to have in this, right? What kind of data do we want to eliminate? Not from the standpoint of censorship, but there's just some things that we think shouldn't be in there. Like there shouldn't be biases in there toward Jewish people or African Americans or old white people, right? Or teachers or whatever those things are. We can go through in pre-training and delete those things out, right? Skip those things. We don't want to train our models on it. If you want an example of that, Grok, which is Elon Musk large language model that he is promoting right now, was a few months back throwing out Nazi quotes and comments, right? And just propaganda, right? Because it had that information in it, right? You don't want to be able to sit down with AI and say, give me the directions on how to create a bomb, or give me a plan to go, in and do a mass shooting, right? You don't want those things. You don't want to have, what are the top 10 ways to commit suicide, right? We don't want those things in there because we don't want people to have access to them because they're going to lead to something bad, right? So and we as model makers, we as the ones that are training those models, get to decide what things we want in there and what things we don't. We then take that data and then we go in and we start training the model. We start fine tuning it. We go through and we look at it and say, all right, show me an image of a fish. Is that a fish? It'll give me an image and I'll say, is that a fish? And I'll say yes or no, right? We go through and we train it. We go through and we validate it. You are a part, if you've got a ChatGPT license or a Claude license, or you use their open, their free models, you'll see that they've got a thumbs up or a thumbs down on ChatGPT, for example. If you give it a thumbs up, you're telling AI that based on your prompt, it gave you the right information. If you give it a thumbs down, you're telling them that that's not the answer I was looking for. You're helping train the model. You're helping them fine tune it to be able to understand it. And then they go through, and once they we get it all trained, then we start looking for advanced options, right? What are the most frequently asked things? If we know what those are, we start looking at things like phrases and, bigger issues. Like, for example, Mary had a little lamb, right? Most people know that, right? Row your boat. People know that. So they'll go through and they'll take those phrases in an automated fashion and they put them together. They put those together, right? They start putting together things that are going to optimize and minimize the amount of effort that it takes to go and put to identify what those things are. By doing that, they're really trying to make it to minimize the amount of work that they have to go do. Much like when you're using your computer and you're using your browser, you're browsing the internet. If you've been to a website and you go someplace else and you come back, right, within a 30 seconds even, it's going to start out, it's going to bring back up, typically it'll bring back up what you had, something similar to what you had up before, because it doesn't have to download everything again. It's got it in the cache. Well, AI is that same kind of thing, right? They're trying to minimize the amount of work that they have to do and the amount of data that has to go back and forth. So that's what they're doing, where we will go through and do advanced training, do advanced verification, look to put bigger things together so that we can get better performance out of it. There's a lot of things you can do with a generative AI, right? Generative AI, we talked about yesterday, is you're talking to it back and forth, right? You can create images, you can create videos, you can create song lyrics, you can create scripts, for videos, you can create movie scripts, you can create charts, graphs, books. I mean, it's unlimited what you can go do with AI today, and that's all through generative AI. There are some great time wasters out there, right? There is Midjourney. If you're an artist, go check out Midjourney. Very, very cool, right? In terms of how it works. If you're practical, maybe you want to go in and you want to take on something like Synthesia.io and go to that tool to create your videos, right? There are there's video, there are companies out there. For example, I know I've got a subscription. I was silly to sign up for it, but there's a company out there that you can go and sign up, and you can give it a 1 sentence and it will generate a book for you, an ebook for you. And it will put it in, you pick your template, it'll format it all for you. Well, that's pretty cool, except what happens, right? You get garbage in, garbage out. If you don't give it a good enough description, you get crap, right? And it's expensive to go use a tool like that. So there are all kinds of tools out there. And as we go, once we get through this phase of the 12-hour training, we'll move on into a phase where we'll actually be going in and doing things like generating videos. We'll use apps like gamma.app. If you haven't, I'll put that in the chat. If you haven't used Gamma before, and you do PowerPoints, go check it out. Gamma.app is a lifesaver, right? You forgot that you have a presentation that you have to do. You forgot it. It's 5 minutes before. You can go into Gamma and you can create a PowerPoint. I was doing a lot of, we were doing an AI challenge at a school here in Indianapolis. And I was going every Friday to help them go do, and help the kids work through. And they were learning JavaScript and HTML and what have you, all these technical languages. And they were interfacing. I gave them projects to interface to AI, right? So we go in there and we start working on that. And as we're working through that, they were able to actually connect to these GPT models to create their whatever it is they wanted to do, whether it was creating a book, whatever it was. Those tools are available now to high school kids, right? This vibe coding is another example, right? Of what's vibe coding. Vibe coding is where you sit down and you just start talking in English and it creates an app for you, right? There are tools that are out there that you can do that. There, again, going back to Gamma, when I was going out to Franklin Central to do the coding challenge, I would go out there and use Gamma. If I forgot something, I would say, give me a PowerPoint presentation on the importance of cybersecurity. Yeah, I could have spent 3 hours doing that, but I had forgotten. I got up in the morning. I was able to create an app in 5 minutes or create a PowerPoint in 5 minutes that I could then use as a prop to talk, which is really what I do, right? I talk, PowerPoint's there, but I'm not looking at it. I'm not reading the words off of it. I'm just it's kind of there for your visual reference. That Gamma saved me. I don't know how many times, right? You can use it to help you create your deck. If you're talking about, you've got a strategy session coming up, or you've got, you're talking to kids, or you're talking to the PTA, or whatever it is you're doing, you can use Gamma to help get you started on that, right? And there's some other things on there that you can go in and look at and read. You've probably read it by now. I think the big thing that I look at is, initially when AI came out, I was thinking productivity. Woohoo, right? Do things faster. Now I'm about, okay, now I can do things faster, but I can also do it with quality, right? I can do things better. And instead of me coming up with all the creative ideas, I come up with the ideas, but then implementing them, I can let AI do that. I can look at it and say, okay, put this in first person format, or make this, use a tone of being encouraging and informative, or take this body of work and make it so that the focus is on a fifth grader. We can use it to do those things for us that are more mundane, that take longer to allow us to work on higher level things. That's what this, as you think about technology and you think about advancements, we go through this period where we're struggling with, people are going to be replaced. When we were pulling plows behind horses, right? We needed more people and more horses to be able to farm the fields, right? To plow the fields and to do farming. Once the tractor comes along, guess what? We don't need those people necessarily to be walking behind that plow. Instead, we need them driving. And so we can scale it and leverage and feed more people, because with the same amount of manpower, or person power, I guess I should say, with the same amount of person power, we are able to do more. And that's the way I look at AI. It's not going to get rid of your job. It's going to allow you to be able to do more. And those people that say, it's going to get rid of my job. No, what's going to get rid of your job is somebody who's using AI and knows how to use it and use it well, right? That's what happens to people. Is not, AI doesn't just replace people, right? It really is trying to get people to elevate up to the next level. There will be, while I'm moving back over, there will be a big retraining coming up, right? We're going to be entering a training phase where there are people that not only need to understand how to use the tools, but we also need to help them get to the new mindset. So there's going to be a big training opportunity here, big reskilling opportunity. We've talked about this a lot, benefits of large language models, right? You can read them. We've talked about them before. The ethical considerations. This is my favorite one. This is one we're going to talk about tomorrow. Recognize potential biases. What are the potential biases that are out there? We're pulling in data from the internet. That data, by default, has various opinions, right? Comes from various points of view. It's going to be biased, right? Our trick is going to be, how can we identify and mitigate that bias? That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. You need to be critical in your examination. Don't just, if it tells you it used this as a source, it used the maybe it used the Indianapolis Star as a source on something, go check it out. Go make sure that the source is really there. Ask it to provide the link, click the link, and see if it takes you to the actual Indianapolis Star article, right? Or the citation if you're doing academic research, right? Make sure that those sources are valid. Don't just take it and copy and paste it. You know, when we talk about ethics, we talk about, you know, one of the points on this slide is we need to have open discussions. That means we need to be comfortable with the fact that we're going to have conversations that we may not like, right? We may not like them. We may not feel comfortable with them. It may put us at risk. It may challenge what we're thinking about, you know, and how we approach things. I've said this yesterday. What is your value system? What are you willing to do? Are you going to use AI to create a blog post and you're just going to copy and paste it? Are you going to create a video with a, you know, with a young 20-something California kid, you know, blonde hair surfer kid, and you live in the Midwest? What are you comfortable with, right? You have to decide that. You have to think about that. You have to come up with, what are you willing to do, right? And so it's important that we, as we go forward, yeah, it's important that we understand the tools, right? It's important that we make sure that we know those tools. But an idiot with a tool is still an idiot, right? If you're using a tool and you don't know how to use it, or you use it in a bad way, that it's still you. It's still the human that's making that choice, right? So think about that. What are you willing to do? And what are the ramifications of how you're using AI? If there are any, right? There may not be. You may use it to generate a recipe for you, right? And what's the worst that can happen? It tastes bad, right? You end up wasting some food. That's one example. What's another example? You could use AI and you could alienate a whole group of people that you were trying to help. And you may alienate them not because your intentions are bad, but because AI picked up something and threw it in there that you didn't anticipate or you didn't catch, right? So how are you going to use AI and what are you going to use it to do, right? You have to figure out those values. And then you have to, the last bullet point here is pretty important, right? In responsible use, what's responsible, right? To the guy that's trying to milk every dollar out of you. He's a hustler. He's a con artist. He's trying to get every dollar he can get. He's looking for the old retired people that are sitting at home all day, right? And he's hoping he can catch them. He's going to use AI in a way that's not responsible. How are you going to use it? How are you going to promote it? What are you going to, if you go through the program and become a certified master trainer, what are you going to try and hope that your potential students or the people you influence, what are you hoping they carry away from it? I know I'm going through this quick. I'm going to skip that one. Okay, so that's it for language models. So the next thing I'm going to bounce to is I'm going to reshare something. Where is it? I gotta put my cheaters on. Okay, we want to go to, I want to get out of that. Let me go to that. Sorry, it's taking me a minute here. Okay, so we're going to end the slideshow for that. Okay, so that one's done, and we're going to go into the next one. And the next one is about prompt engineering, which we're all about. Here we go. Okay. So what's this prompt engineering thing I keep hearing about, right? What is that? And for a lot of us, it's scary, right? When we think of engineering, we think of people. We think of having, somebody who has got a lot of training that's going to come in and do that for us. There we go. So you should, there you go. Okay. So we think about it as being, again, we think about it as being something that requires a technology person, right? And engineering, right, is a term that gets used a lot. We use it for social engineering. We can use it for, software development. We can use it for, electrical engineering, right? Electrical engineers can figure out, and set up electrical systems. Mechanical engineering, how does a machine work, right? We can go through and have these different kinds of engineers. And all of them are really just figuring out how to put things together and create something that is an output that we want, right? When we're building a bridge, we want a structural engineer to come in and put the structure of the bridge together in such a way that it doesn't collapse on people, right? Or with people on the bridge. If we got a mechanical engineer, we want a machine that's going to work, and not take somebody's finger off or take their life, right? We want to be able to know that it's going to work that way. Prompt engineering is that. It's about structure. How do you go about not just creating the perfect prompt, but what's the process you go through to get to the outcome you want? What is it you want? I want a blog post that represents InnoPower, right? I want to create a marketing plan that helps me understand or that helps me increase my customers by 100%. Or I want to create a prompt that will help a kid with dyslexia be able to read a book, right? Whatever those things are, we need the outcome in mind, right? We need the outcome in mind so that we don't know how we're going to get there, but we know what we want to get to, right? And that's really what we're trying to do with prompt engineering. Skip that. I've talked about InnoPower. All right. So I've described what prompt engineering is. It's not science. It's not art. It's really a combination of both, right? There's a little bit of science to it. There's a lot of art to it, knowing what questions to ask, getting experience with it. You sit down and if you haven't used AI before, or you've only used it to do a copy and paste, which is what a lot of people have done so far, right? I'm going to use it. It's going to create an email for me, or it's going to create a brochure and I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm good to go. So a lot of people use it like that. But if you're going to effectively use it, it's a combination of art and science, right? There's certain things you ask for, certain things you need to understand. But there's also, how do you ask the questions? How do you know what is important to be, nose is itching. What do you ask for? What's important to ask for so that you get the results you want? And when I first started in this, there was a lot of, people acted like it was a lot of, what's the term I want to use here? Like there's a lot of science to it, right? Like there's a certain way you could set up rules and you could, if you do this and this and this and this, it will give you a perfect prompt. And that's not the case, right? It's about asking questions, getting a response back, and then asking more questions, right? Or giving more direction when it doesn't do what you want to do. It's very much like the communication you have when you're talking to your peers or you're talking to your boss, right? You ask for something, they give it to you, and then you look at it and go, okay, they've reacted to me. Now, is that really what I expected? And then you reword it, right? And over time, as you get practice, you get to the point where it's just second nature, right? For me, it's second nature. I can write a prompt right now that will go out and do what I need it to do. And for the most part, I have to go in occasionally and revise, but for the most part, I know what I'm asking. So I don't have to go through and follow rules. That's where I want to get you to. But we're going to start with a framework. We're going to start with clear language, if that means anything to anybody, right? What's clear language? It's a framework that you use so that it's like a checklist that you use to go through and ask or create a prompt to get you started. What else? Is there anything else I want to talk about there? No. Okay. Why does it matter? You're going to get better results. At the end of the day, these numbers, whatever they are, right? 3x application expansion, 60% error reduction, 75% accuracy improvement. You're going to get a better response. You're going to spend less time messing around, right? You're going to spend, your time is going to be more valuable because you might spend a little bit more time crafting your prompts and engaging with it, but you're going to get a better result, right? So it's important that you understand the concepts of it as you go forward. So we talk about a couple of different approaches. First framework I'm going to talk about is clear, right? And when I talk about clear, I'm talking about it from the standpoint that clear is really a framework that I think of it like it's a checklist, right? You don't need necessarily every single component of clear. You don't necessarily need context, length, expectations, audience, and refinement, all in the same prompt. Sometimes you don't want to put an audience in there. Sometimes you don't want to put a length in there. You know, sometimes you don't put your expectations in there because you don't have any, right? So, but it gives you kind of that checklist, that mental checklist to go through and think about, okay, when I'm writing this prompt, what do I need to write? I need to include some context. Who am I writing it for, right? How long do I want it to be? Do I want it to be, you know, under 500 characters for a description? Do I want it to be, you know, 500 words? Do I want it to be 5,000 words, right? What do I want it to be? I want it to have 4 paragraphs. I want an outline for a book that's got 12 chapters in it, and each chapter should have 7 bullet points underneath it, right? Providing further detail on this topic. So you're asking those questions or you're answering those questions ahead of time by saying, this is what I want, right? You can go in and say, okay, here's the context. I want to create a book about fishing, and it'll come back and it'll give you something, right? And then you can say, okay, now that we've got that, I'd like to refine it a little bit, and I'd like to make it for people that have never fished before. Okay, so it's going to come back and do something. And then we're going to say context. We might say it's for people who have never fished before that want to fish in Florida versus fishing in Bemidji, Minnesota, right? 2 different worlds, 2 different ways of skills are the same, but you're fishing for different fish, different ways of approaching it, right? What are your expectations? That I can go out and I can go out and fish, right? I can go out and catch a fish, or I can go out and fish from the bank and be effective, right? And you get some results, and then the refinement comes in, you iterate, right? So that clear framework is important for you to start thinking about and keep it front and center, right? There are tons of frameworks out there, and they're all basically the same thing, right? You're going to see scale here in a minute. It is basically the same thing, right? They're all basically the same. Which framework is the best? They're all basically the same. It's really which one do you feel most comfortable with, right? Do you feel comfortable starting with clear? Do you feel most comfortable with scale? Do you feel most comfortable? Do you just want to Google it and try, right? Give me or ask ChatGPT, what are the most popular prompt frameworks? And it'll spit something out. Why are there so many frameworks? Well, there's a bunch of people there's a bunch of people, and I'll call them charlatans, right? There's a lot of people out there that say, I've got the best idea, buy my book or buy my access to my framework, right? I've got the best, right? And in reality, they don't, right? But it comes down to, what are you comfortable with? And how do you approach it? Just like it's the same conversation we had yesterday about which GPT model do you use? Do you use Claude Do you use Perplexity? Do you use Gemini? Do you use Grok? Do you use ChatGPT? Which one do you use, right? Do you use Llama? Do you go pick up one off Huggy Face, right? It just depends on what you're comfortable with. And that's what you need to figure out. What are you comfortable with? Because the more comfortable you get with it, the more it's going to become second nature to you. The more productive you're going to be because you know how it works and it's beginning to know how you work and it knows what your expectations are, right? So the frameworks are a lot like that. Which one are you comfortable with, right? I suggest Clear, straightforward. You don't like Clear, you can go on to the next one, right? So the next one, well, let's talk about Clear first, right? So here's how it can work, right? You can start out with creating the entire prompt all at once, or you can go in and do it iteratively, which is the way I like to do it, right? So what is it I'm trying to do? What's my context? What length? I want 500 words. I want 5,000 words. I want 4 chapters. I want a spreadsheet with 27 rows, right? I want a Word document with 10 pages, right? And then you go in and you start looking at it and you say, okay, setting expectations. What are your expectations? I want to be humanized. What does humanize mean? Does anybody know? This term, I'll say this before somebody answers. This term, humanize, is worth the price you paid to get into this class. So has anybody got to guess what humanize does?
It's the emotion. It's the emotion or feeling.
I cannot hear you. You're too quiet. Hello?
Is it better?
No.
Is it better?
No.
Chris, Joshua was saying that it's emotion and basically it's dealing with how a person feels. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't know if you can hear me. Let's see, maybe. Is that better?
Yeah. So
It
say
was rooted in that exactly. It's to be humanized is to be relatable in the feelings, the emotions, what connects us, um, um, and what brings us together. That human interaction. So that thing that you know uh, the part in the text or the prompt that could separate a robotic response from a human response is describing how something tasted or felt or how the weather felt or whatever it is. That's what that human piece is.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's about taking it and rather than making it robotic and repetitive and pattern-like. If you notice, when you ask ChatGPT, it'll use patterns. It does the same thing all the way through. Humanizing it means go in and make it shorter sentences, make it more like humans talk, make it so that as you're reading it, the pattern is broken, right? Because I'm broken, right? I don't read at the same clip. I don't use sentences. Sometimes I use big sentences and sometimes I don't, right? Humanize it, takes it and makes it sound like more human. It makes it so more difficult for an AI checker to check it, right? Because it's going to take it and break it up. It's going to make it sound like more of a human. Teachers cringe when I say this to students, right? But if you say humanize your response, it's going to make it sound like more of a human. It's going to make it sound like it is in your voice. If you say, make it sound like Chris Daly instead of humanize, what's that mean? Well, that means it needs to sound like me, which means I need to create a style guide that talks about how I write, right? And how I communicate. So Humanize allows you to make it sound less robotic. You're going to see as you go through and use it that there are other things that happen from time to time when you're using AI. You'll begin to notice, and if you can't already, you'll know as you go through this class, you'll begin to look at those, right? You'll begin to see those little telltale signs that it's AI generated, right? Like the dash. They use, instead of using commas, a lot of times they'll use a dash, or they'll take a sentence, they'll put a dash in it, and on one side and on the other to make it a long run-in sentence, right? So if you're used to it, if you're used to reading and seeing AI output, you can pick it out fairly quickly. You can begin to see things that you recognize that happen all the time. My example is this. You will never hear me say moreover or furthermore. You just won't, right? Was not something I learned. It was not something I ever heard at home. I mean, I went to high school. I graduated in the late 70s. That was something you read. It wasn't something you said, right? Especially in a little bitty town in south of Indianapolis. You didn't hear that stuff. You didn't hear those words. If somebody talked like that, they were made fun of, right? So I remove those terms, right? I want it to get rid of those terms. I tell it what not to do, right? Don't use these terms. Avoid, make my sentences no longer than 10 words, right? I don't speak in big, long terms. Don't use big words. What audience for general writing should you use? What grade level? Does anybody know? Should you tell it to write at a first grade level, a second grade level?
Between 5 and 8.
Yeah, 5 and 8 is about right. Depends on who you're talking to. Some will say 8, some will say 7 or 6. Depends on your audience, right? If you're writing for, PhD students, you're going to write at a different level than you are if you're writing, a story, or you're documenting something for your PTA group, right? You're going to write at a different level. And so it's important that you think about that and understand how you're going to approach that. This framework helps you, right? So when we're talking about clear, what's your expectations? What's your context? Right? And so this framework, to bring it back to the framework, it helps give you direction.
Chris, may I ask a question? When you're doing that, does that also start to creating what we were discussing yesterday about the biases? When it starts to, when you start to humanizing it and giving it those instructions, does that then develop, I'm not sure what I'm asking, your biases, your views on a subject, or just your format?
It's usually your format.
Okay.
Right? Now you could say in your style guide, I'm going to go political here just because I can't think of anything else right now, but you could say, I am a Trump loyalist, or I'm a centrist in terms of politics, right? You could say I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal, right? You can say those things in your style guide and it will incorporate them. You can also include, when you go in to create a style guide, if you should so choose, take your writing that you've done in the past, and you can take that writing and ask it, upload it, and not just one piece, but a number of pieces, upload it and ask it to create a style guide, right? What writing style do I use? What are my tendencies? Tend to be left leaning, right? Tend to be supportive of the under-resourced, underprivileged. I tend to be focused on entrepreneurial activities. I tend to be focused on tech issues, right? You can go in and tell it those things when it's creating the style guide for you.
Mhm.
If you should
Hey,
so
Chris.
choose to do that. Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
if you E.B. White's Elements of Style is a great way to help develop your humanization, your style, because that's what we had to work with years ago, and when we were learning how to write. That book, it's maybe only about 80 pages or 100 pages or so, but it tells you how to bring your style, bring out your biases and what you're leaning towards. Those are things that are going to so if you want to get a copy of that book and look at it, it might help you develop your style guide.
Can you throw the name of that book in the chat?
Right, both.
Sure.
So everybody
Go
can.
check. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that'd be great, right? And then, so you can use those as references. How you write, you can. So if you find somebody that writes like you do, you can also use them to help create your style guide. I don't necessarily always agree, but I like the way Tim Denning writes. I enjoy reading his material, right? And so I have taken mine and added some of his blog posts and some of his newsletters and things like that to help refine my style guide of what I want to sound like, right? So you can do that as well. So that's a good thing because it's going to improve mine. The bad part about that is what? I could take the style guide I could take conversations that somebody that I want to impersonate, I can take their material that's out on the web or get their audio recordings and I can make it sound like me, right? Or I can make me sound like them when I write. So you could have different, depending on different audiences, you may have different style guides. Let's see what else. Spark. So let's talk about, wait a minute, I got a question. I got a question here from Shannon.
From Shanita. Hi, Chris.
No, I've got Shannon sent me a personal. Hold on a minute.
Oh.
Okay. Shannon, I'll take care of Shannon Robinson Sr. I'll answer your question offline. Yeah. So, okay, go ahead. Somebody was trying to say something and I cut him off.
Chris, it's Shanita. How are you? I've just been quietly listening this whole time. But I like the fact that you were saying that this was similar to art and science marrying itself, because I look at this as building like a mini version of yourself, and having an assistant as you build a virtual space of yourself into this framework that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So when putting in more information, it starts to emulate parts of who you are, as far as information, how you read, how you write. And so I guess for the group, that's the contents of how using it more allows for it to grow more with you. So the more contents you give, like you said, upload some old papers, upload some old content of information, because the more it gives a clear picture of who you are and what kind of things you believe in and you support, it starts to build your information around your characteristics of data is what I'm seeing from, utilizing it myself. So I don't know if that helps anybody think about it as far as in that space, is that it becomes part of how you kind of virtually think, in a sense, to me. By the way you give it context, or if you give it pictures, or you give it your lifestyle, it becomes a version of you that's in art form, but through a system that can help you improve how you think and how you solve problems internally.
Yeah. So that's a good point. You know, I have created style guides for me, right? That I have a style guide for blog posts, and I have a different style guide for when I'm writing emails, right? I have a different approach when I'm writing for this class versus when I'm writing for a sixth grader. And so I have actually created different style guides so that when I go from tool to tool to tool, I don't have to rely on it to be able to, I'm not starting at ground zero every time, right? The other thing about creating a style guide that is important is you're trusting that it's going to understand you and represent you the way you are. And I don't trust it that much. So I want to control how it represents me when it writes. So that's why I use style guides, right? Not everybody uses those. They're pretty easy to use. It's pretty easy to do. You just upload some content, ask it to create a style guide for you, and then go through and read the style guide and make sure it's got what you want in there, right? And then you save it as a document, and then you can upload it when you go into a new tool, or you can add it in ChatGPT. You can go into the personalization tab and go in and update it that way. So I think it's important not only that we inspect what it does, but we also control what it gives us, right? And to bring it back to humanization and frameworks, you want to humanize it, right? You want to dictate how you want it to come out. Don't just take what it gives you. Tell it what you want. Set your expectations. I put up another framework here called Spark. When you look at this, it looks very similar to Clear, right? And I give it to you as it's in the slide deck that you're going to get from Blonley. You know, the Spark gives you that approach, and it's a different kind of an approach, right? Specific, think about context. Purpose, what are you trying to do? Audience, we saw that on Clear, right? What are the rules? What are the constraints? Do not ever say furthermore or moreover, right? Only create sentences that are 10 words or less. Do not use a dash instead of a comma, right? Always speak in clear, concise terms. Key details, right? Think about context again, right? Essential information to include. What's the context of what I'm trying to do? So another framework, and like I said, there are bunches of them out there. You can read through these. I'm not going to go through all these. I want to get to some challenges, right? So let's talk about those. Ethical use. I keep beating up on ethical use, right? And ethics. It's important that you do that. It's important that you manage your biases, right? Not only you manage your biases that you have, but the biases that come from the large language models. Ask it to go in and say, identify, is this racially biased? Is this biased toward or away from a certain group? Right? It will tell you that. So you can use the large language models to not only take them, you can use it to check itself. You get some text and then you come back and say, the next question is what you just displayed or what you just gave me biased from a racial standpoint or from a gender standpoint or from an age standpoint, right? And it will go through and it'll answer the questions. Doesn't mean you want to change it, just means I want to know what I'm putting out here. If I'm going to put it out here for a specific purpose, I want to know if it's hitting that mark, but I also might want to know who I might be offending too, right? You may not care. You're writing something for adults. You may want to make sure that it doesn't You may want to make sure that it hits the mark for adults. You may want to make sure that it doesn't include any stereotypes, right? Or any slights toward any of the things that I've mentioned before. You know, hallucinations, we've talked about that quite a bit. Consistency, you want to make sure that it is got reliable output. So if you've got 4 chats where you're asking it to do something, upload a template, right? If it's created an output that you like, you know, so when you save it, when you go back in for another chat or a different chat on a different topic, use this output, use this template. It will take that and use it. You've got something that works. Don't recreate the wheel, right? If you got something that works for right now, use that as a template, right? And establish baselines on what you're willing to do, right? So my baseline is, here's my baseline. I want a document that's going to be this and this and this and this, right? We can create rubrics. Does everybody know what a rubric is? I can't see your faces, so give me a thumbs up or say yes or something. Do you know what rubrics are?
Yes.
Yes.
Use them
Because
every
we've all
day.
had to deal with them, right? We've all gotten graded, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's at school. You know, we've always got things out there that are judged, right? And that's what a rubric is. It's essentially a schedule or a list of things that we're going to judge you on or judge this output on, right? Establish a rubric, right? You can, and so how do you establish a rubric? Ask it. You know, who's the best person at creating a rubric? Chat GPT. How do I know that, right? How do I know that? Well, ask it. Ask it. Create a rubric for New York Times best-selling books. And here are 10 books, and these are 5-star, these are 5-star, these are 4, these are 3, these are 2, these are 1, right? What'd you do? You asked it to establish a rubric, and then you've established what the baseline is. Then you can take that rubric and say, okay, now review my book. What does it, based on the rubric that it created and the scores that it, because you gave it some idea on how you score things, how you score those books in that rubric. Now you can take your book and you can upload it and say, okay, now score my rubric, score my book, score my book. It'll give you feedback. You may choose to embrace some of it, you may not. That's okay, right? It's about knowing and making conscious decisions and not being surprised. You can also say, grade it against the rubric, and then what? Give me 3 suggestions on things I can improve. Now you're taking it a step further. Oh, this is great. It says that that I switch from first person to third person, right? It may come back and say, here's some paragraphs you can change that will change the way the book is perceived, the way it's being judged. It may even ask you if you want it to change it for you, right? So the thought is yours, but the actual how it lays out, the wording that comes back, it may change. You may have it change it for you, and then you can go in and say, no, I don't like that. Rework it to do it differently, or you can say, go back to the original model, go back to the original text, right? You use it as a tool to iterate and to get ideas. You use it as a partner. Where am I at? I got 10 minutes and I got roughly 10 minutes. You can look at that. You can look at that on your own. Industry applications, right? Different ways you can use prompts. Yeah. The future, right? So things are starting to get a little more complicated, right? Because now in the past, what we've done is you do text or you do video or you do images. Now we're saying, I want to do text inside of an image. I want an image that says that's got a picture of this, right? And I want a banner across the top that says stop the gun violence, right? So now you're starting to play in it, right? You're starting to have things that you're combining it, right? And that's going to require some more. That's going to require technology to move forward. It's going to require us as prompt engineers to think harder about what we're doing and what we're trying to get. You know, you're going to see that there are specific things that are going to start coming up in different domains. If you think about engineering versus medical, you know, using it for medical purposes, you know, that terminology is going to be different. And we're going to start, and we've already started to see where people are training large language models on specific things. They're getting more specific. They're not just taking the internet as a whole, they're shrinking it down to this little sliver of information I got from the Mayo Clinic, right? Because that's the source I trust. And so you're starting to see people do that and start getting, and inside those language models, right? Then it allows you to be able to use more specific knowledge because you've narrowed that focus. There's not a boot, right? You don't have to worry about how many different ways you're using a boot because it's narrowly focused in this piece, the space. You're not going to wake up one day I could have taken this slide and just said, basically, you're not going to wake up one day and become a prompt engineer, right? Woohoo, I'm a prompt engineer. I woke up today. It doesn't work that way, right? You need to go in and you need to build the foundation. You need to start writing prompts. You need to start using it to create outputs. You need to start thinking about how you question. One thing that will change is the actual how we implement AI. What's not going to change is how you communicate to get the responses you want. The people that communicate and understand how to be iterative and incremental, they're going to be the ones that are going to be better at AI and using AI than those that can't, right? And so how you communicate is very important. You know, you're going to have to get more technical. If you don't know how to take something and create it, put it in a Google Doc, that's going to limit you, right? It's going to limit you to what you can do. If you don't know how to have it, you know, how to work in a spreadsheet, that's going to limit you, right? And you're going to have to figure that out. You're going to have to ramp your skills up. That doesn't mean you need to be there today. It means you need to start moving up the skill, right? Up your skills. Before the IBM PC came out, the only people that had to worry about computers were those that programmed them and those that key punched them, right? The people that put the data in. Now everybody knows how to use a laptop, right? Everybody knows how to use a computer. So your skills are going to have to go ahead, be ramped up. You need to think about continue to keep pace or to get ahead. You need to be this is not a one and done kind of deal. You need to be on a continuous learning journey. You need to be curious. How do I do this? And figure it out, right? Explore new tools. Play around with stuff, right? Spend some time playing around with tools. How are you going to use that tool? Well, you played around with, maybe you played around with Jasper. And you played around with it a little bit, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. I don't really need it right now, but it's cool. So then you go, what do? 6 months from now, you might say, you know what? I need to write better SEO content. Jasper's going to help me do that. And so you make that switch, you make that jump, right? You need to be on that continuous learning journey. If you think about it, in my lifetime, and I keep going back to my lifetime, in the 50 years or so that since I 15 to now, right? This was science fiction when I was in high school, a kid, right? Dick Tracy had a watch that he could talk to. How many of us have watches today that we can talk to? A lot of us, right?
I use that
Whatever we
example all the
think is,
time.
sorry?
I said I use that example all the time. Dick Tracy.
So how do you, so yeah, so what, what's going to happen, right? How are you going to exist in this world as we go forward? The technology, the life expectancy of people continues to go up because of technology, right? Because of the innovations in the medical space, because of the innovations, whether in the pharmaceutical space, whether we like what we pay or not, right? We're living longer. That means we're going to have to use technology. I would think, ooh, I don't have to worry about this AI stuff because I'm going to retire in a few years. No, right? It's not going to work that way because I'm going to live 30 years. What am I going to do for the next 30 years? My wife does not want me to sit around the house, right? Just being a blob watching TV all day. Well, I'm going to be doing other things. I'm going to have to interact with technology. I'm going to have to be able to understand how to get my Social Security through the IRS. I'm going to need to be able to understand, how do you continue to use the internet as it evolves? I'm lucky because I've only got 30 years. Some of you have got 60 years or 70 years left. Sorry to be a downer, but you might have 70 years left, right? What's going to happen in 10 years? What's it going to look like? You're going to have to be a continuous learner. And so this is a step. And so I know I'm being a little emphatic here, but you need to be intentional about what you're learning and how you go about it. Okay. I have got 3 minutes. So I'm going to go over it real quick. So your homework from yesterday was to complete the Are You Famous worksheets in your workbook. And you're to send those to my partner in crime, Belanle, at her email address. So that's what yesterday's homework. Today is, if you haven't done the Are You Famous activity yet, you need to do that. I also want you to do the complete the Are You Detective worksheet. I'd like for you also, I know I'm dumping on you here, but I'd also like for you to submit your title for your capstone project. What is it you're going to do? Is it a marketing strategy? Going to write a kid's book? Are you going to create a recipe book? Are you going to generate a social media campaign? Are you going to create a bid for an RFP? Right? Are you going to create a grant? Right? Apply for a grant. Whatever that thing is that's relevant to you. I want you to come up with a title for it and what it actually is. And then I also would like for you to go through and submit your outline for your capstone project. Now, I realize you're going to say, Chris, how can I submit an outline? Because, I'm not sure about it. Understand, this is an iterative and evolving incremental process. What is it you're trying to do? What does it look like right now? Right? I know things, when you get into things, they change, right? You get into it and I've had people literally go through and work for like 3 weeks on their book and scrap it and start all over. Scary thought, right? But you don't want to continue to waste good time after bad, right? Because and there's nothing bad about when you do that, there's nothing bad about that. What do I mean by that? There's nothing bad. You're learning how not to do stuff, right? You're learning that, oops, I made a mistake back here on step 3. I need to go back and revise this. I need to go back and change this. So I want you to go back. I want you to come up with a draft outline for your capstone project. Now, some of you are going to go, well, where's my capstone project? What the heck is it? It's in your workbook, right? There's about 10 pages in there that describe what it is. If you've got questions on what that is, if you've got questions when you look at it, right, send an email to Belanle and we'll get your response. And the reason I'm saying send it to Belanle instead of me is I get all kinds of emails from all kinds of things I'm doing. Belanle will make sure that I respond to your request, right? So, and I would like for your outline to be at least 3 levels deep. So what does 3 levels deep mean? That means that where in this example that where I'm looking at right here, let me get over here and get to a highlighter. Let me get to this. There we go. Laser pointer. Okay. So this is level 1, right? So think of this like chapter 1 or module 1 if you're creating a course, or one of my first one of the things, the main things I want to do. You're going to take that and you're going to break that down into pieces, right? Should be somewhere between 2 and 5 pieces. And then each one of those should be broken down with another level of detail underneath it. So how are you going to do that? You're going to go figure out what your topic is, what your title and your topic are. You might start out by saying, I want to write a book. I want to write a marketing plan for my business. I'm an entrepreneur that is providing AI consulting practices and best practices, right? So that's my business. And I want to write a book about why you should incorporate AI into your business. So that might be, you ask that question, it comes back and it spits out a title, right? Or it might, hopefully, you'll say, give me 5 examples of a title, and it'll do that. So then you're going to say, okay, now I've got I've selected this as my title. This is the area that I'm focused on. Create an outline for me that is 3 levels deep, that will provide that I can use for creating my book or my marketing report or my grant proposal, whatever it is. And it will go through and it'll do that. And then you're going to look at it and go, well, that makes good. That looks good. We need more detail here. I like that. We need less detail here. You're way off the reservation here. You're going to go back and forth with it, telling it how you want it. You're going to be saying, I like this. I don't like that. Do this. Don't do that. I need more depth here. I need you to expand this. That's a key word, right? Expand. Going back to Martin's comments about keywords. Expand. What's expand mean? Take this 2 sentences and make it bigger, right? So it'll provide more detail for this particular section, right? Those are the kind of commands you're going to ask it as you're massaging and working with your outline. Once you get that done, email it to Blonde Line, right? Now, I know that some of you said, I heard somebody say they didn't get the first assignment done because they were busy. We understand, I understand, life happens, right? Stuff comes up. There's things you got to do. You got work, you got kids, maybe you got partners, significant others, you got your own interests, whatever those things are, right? Business demands, whatever those things are. Understand they come up. So as we're assigning things and making these assignments, right? These are the things we're going to track and see if you submit. If you don't submit them, we're going to keep at it until you do submit it so you can pass your 12 hours, right? We're going to remind you. Blonde Line will send out emails periodically over the next couple of weeks to remind you, hey, we still need this. Hey, we still need that. Right? If you don't you have to complete the homework and the capstone project and be here for 6 hours to be considered to get your certificate to graduate from this portion of the class, right? If you miss one time, it's not a big deal. Go watch the videos. So I've been pounding through stuff so that I can end up, what time is it? It is 1:05, so I'm only 5 minutes late. So what kind of questions do you have?
Just want to say thanks for your time. I do have to hop off here, but thank you.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Appreciate being engaged.
So we're going to do this We're going to go into the InnoPower. Well, we'll go to the activity sheet that you gave us, that worksheet, and but to actually do it, we will go into InnoPower and work our way through different apps there, tools there to complete it.
Yep. Or you can do it in your, if you've got a paid subscription on something, you can do it on that too.
Okay, but in some of those, when in some app that
Yeah.
you will feed in the information into it and it'll kick it back out and you select what you want or keep going in and having it give you the answer that you want, and then you will take that answer and put it into um, the homework.
Yeah. To just an
Workbook.
email to Belonley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And there was, I was looking, I don't see it right now, but somewhere in here, where was it? Brett. So Brett threw in here about the InnoPower. I'm going to go in right after this class. Some of the tools are locked. I will make sure that they are unlocked for you. And you will have full access to all the tools inside of InnoPower. Tamala, you have your hand raised? Not Tamala, sorry. I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, it's
Tamika.
probably me. It's probably me, Chris. I was going to say, if I could stay back about 5 minutes and ask you some technical questions.
Yep.
Yep.
Can do that.
Hey, Chris, we're going to give you back your time. All of the apps just need the registered people to go on there, unlock it, and like a subscription, but at the bottom it's going to say free. Just hit the upgrade button and it'll open up those apps. So Chris, you don't need to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'll still go in there and check just to make sure.
Copy that.
You know, some people struggle a little bit. So thanks for that, Brett.
You're welcome.
Hey, Chris, a little bit of housekeeping. There are a few other people who are trying to get over the finish line with this, and if they still can't manage to get inside of the InnoPower resources, what can we do to assist them?
We can, well, I don't know what you mean by they can't get into the
I don't.
resources.
They're saying they can't get into the prompt engineering or this where you register. I have one person. Pacific is Melissa Kressler. She's not one. This I think she only have like one class to complete. But I talked to her while right before, right while the class was going on, and I couldn't get a clear picture. But I guess she was stating she couldn't get into where you upload homework.
I'll reach out to Melissa and we'll figure out what she needs to get her done.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, Wendy Willis is another one that has a question that I've got to go through, and
okay,
I think Wendy had.
You said Wendy
Sorry?
because it's Wendy because I'm trying to keep track of who all is still staying engaged, so that I can make sure I know who kind of are key core people.
Yeah, Wendy has
So it's
reached out
Wendy.
to Blonley, and I've got to go in and look at her book and make sure it's good, and then she'll be good to go.
And then Hermelinda Gomez is another name. Hermelinda. Maybe I'll just give it to Balay. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, just send me an email which ones, and
Yep.
we'll go through and figure those out.
And if we should have questions or something, we can then send it to Balanle, and then somebody will respond.
Yep. You can also send it to me, but if you send it to me, copy Blonley, because she does a fantastic job of making sure that I stay
on
focused.
task. Yeah,
on task, however you want to say it nicely, right?
Yeah, I'm saying it nicely, Chris. On task. So
yeah, on task. She would say that. I'm sure if she were speaking, she would say she's got, she's going to keep me on the straight and narrow, right, or something like that, or she's got to whip me into shape, something like that. But she does a very good job of keeping me moving forward.
She won't say furthermore or moreover.
She might. I don't know. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
All right, so we're done.
We are done. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
And we will
thank you.
see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris. Oh, I
Thank
didn't hit
you.
I didn't hit the attendance link. So
Better
It's in
do
the
that.
chat.
Okay. So I'm going to hang on here in case anybody's got any questions. I'm going to turn off my camera.
I did put the link for the Elements of Style in the chat box, along with the Amazon link if you want to buy the book.
I saw that. Thank you.
Martin, you buying the book for me? That's what you said? You're gonna buy the book for me, Martin? Oh, you're so nice. Okay, true.
This is the reason why.
That's why you're on this call, because you like me. You don't like me so well. Thank you for showing up.
So one of the things that I've noticed, and I haven't clicked the link yet, I guess I should click the link, is that you don't necessarily have to buy the book anymore.
Yeah, you can go into the audio thing. So,
Well, you can not only do that, but if the book's been around for a while,
okay, it's
there's
a
a good
PDF.
chance that the GPT's been changed, had an opportunity to get to it.
It's also not the original book. This is like the 4th edition of somebody else's updating that. So
yeah,
I don't know. I haven't seen that one. I just know when I was in high school, one of our English teachers had us use the Elements of Style to learn how to write, and it's always helped me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 50 years ago.
I doubt that.
That's the way it was done then. Oh yeah, 50 years ago. I was a freshman in high school. My first programming class in the fall of 1977.
Wow. I
Yeah,
graduated.
Chris, we've been around for a while.
We have. I graduated in 79.
So
we have a
so
diverse group of people in this world we're building, Chris.
Oh yeah.
That's
I'm a
what's going
79er like you, Chris.
It is definitely a diverse group, right? I mean,
yeah.
Definitely.
That's what's going to make it have its impact. That that people can see themselves inside of one of us, all of us, or and so that's going to help people get their buy-in to participate, because it's going to look familiar to them.
Yeah, it's I think that having that diversity gives. I mean, I learned something from every single class that I come in, right? Like the elements of style. I have not come across that. I will take a look at that and see how that works, right? See what that is. I learned just listening to you all and your questions and your stories, and it's a constant learning process, and it doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are or what your experiences are. This is all new to everybody. So good stuff.
So I look at AI as the version of the Jetsons in real time. We were able to see the Jetsons as a cartoon, because I'm a cartoon person. So those things that were in that cartoon are our current reality. And if we're looking at it, we're building the Jetsons 2.0, the next version of what you can build in your mind as innovation and creation.
Right. Okay. Gonna kill it.
All right, Chris, before you kill it, this is Tamika. I'm in the InnoPower app. Hold on, let me return back to that. And I
Can you
have
share your screen?
InnoPower. Go back to the
Green button at the